Verse 335. Thus, guarding his senses, let him have an exact understanding in the meaning of the Sutras and the Vinaya, and let him not associate with men of the world. Such I call the Yogin. So we're talking about the enlightenment practitioner here. This is the Yogin. This is one who has touched awareness, realized the true nature of awareness, and sees that he needs to become more established in this. But there's a problem of our personal psychology. This constantly undermines such an effort. And it's not undermined by any crass objects of desire. It's undermined by our attitudes to our daily activities. From what we eat, to how we sleep, to what we wear, to what we possess or desire to possess. All these things, although they seem harmless enough, go along with a certain emotional attitude, a certain psychological disposition. And it's one that we're so familiar with that we're not even aware of it. So this is what this verse is talking about. Let him have an exact understanding in the meaning of the Sutras and the Vinaya. The Sutras are those verses that guide us to this awareness, and the Vinayas are those verses which indicate those leakages in awareness, those everyday, moment-to-moment leakages. And we're told not to associate with men of the world. And this means we don't take our cue from worldly values, because none of them are relevant to becoming established in awareness. So the previous verses up to now have been to do with this. They've been to do with these rules. Not very appealing, but we have to understand them as opportunities to look for leakages in awareness. To do with possessions, to do with sleeping, to do with how we interact with everyday reality, to do with what we wear, and to do with money and possessions. And the next few verses continue with this. Verse 336. Let the Yogin prepare his abode in an empty house or a cemetery, or under a tree, or in a cavern, or among the straw, or in an open place. So what do we have to look at here? Well, once we've got our four walls, it's no longer just a building, it's a home. It's a home, and we want to make this home cosy. We want to make it a clear demarcation between within these walls and outside these walls. Within these walls we are safe and cosy, and outside these walls we are vulnerable and cold. Now this doesn't mean that you have to go and actually do this, live in some straw in a barn or in a cemetery and so on. That's fine if the society supports that particular way of life. But what we have to do here is look at the significance of what home as opposed to building means for us, and how much of our personal psychology is wrapped up in it. I personally am a great one for making myself cozy. I don't like the dark and the cold. And as I record this winter, it's a very dark, dismal, wet day outside. It doesn't look like it's going to get particularly light. It's late November and the shops already have their Christmas stuff on display. And it's nice to put up these lights, isn't it? I'm going to put up some lights in here. There's nothing actually wrong with being cozy, but it mustn't mean crawling into a shell. So this is what I have to watch out for. It's good to get out and appreciate the gloom. Although I don't know if I will. But still, there is a part of one's psyche that's being highlighted here, and it's worth looking at that. Verse 337, let the yogin dress himself in 3 garments, whether in the cemetery or any other place. If anyone should voluntarily give him a garment, let him accept it. Well, we had a verse about clothing recently, about the yogin having a white cloth which could be dyed with cow dung, mud, or fruits or leaves. But here it's even simpler. 3 garments, probably a lower garment, upper garment, and undergarment. And that's the end of it. And you're living out in the open here. Some kind-hearted person might see this and think, especially at night, you might be getting a little cold. So they want to offer you a garment. And it says here, accept it. There's nothing much to say about this, really. We're not going to be anti-coziness. We just don't want to be a slave to coziness. It might not sound very important, but a great deal of modern affluence is based around the understanding that we should coddle ourselves, we should treat ourselves. We deserve the best. We deserve treats, especially if you've been working hard. You have to treat yourself. Do nice things for yourself. So it's actually a strong tendency in modern affluent culture. So we need to be aware of it. We're not against it, but we don't want to become a slave to it, an addict. We don't want to become addicted to it. Sometimes people talk about shopping therapy. If you're feeling a little bit low, go out and buy something. You might as well recommend a junkie, if they're not feeling so good, to go and have another fix. So, no shopping therapy for the enlightenment practitioner. And this next verse, in a way, sort of sums up the basic discipline. Verse 338. When he goes about begging food, let him look ahead not more than the length of a yoke. Let him conduct himself in the way bees treat flowers. So in other words, you don't take any more than you need. And your needs really are very, very little. be careful you don't convince yourself otherwise. Like I say, there are these forces in modern affluent society trying to convince you that you need a great deal. You don't. And this is the idea of having your head focused about 6 feet in front of you on the ground. It's a very good, I've mentioned this exercise before. If you have to go out, there's so many things, especially if you're going to the shops, that can attract your attention. And it's an interesting exercise to try to keep your gaze on the ground 6 feet in front of you. And observe how difficult that is, or how difficult it can be, because you want to check out what's going on, don't you? You want to check out the pretty faces, what the girls are wearing, and what's in the shop displays, and so on. So it's all there. This might sound a little bit of like being a killjoy, but really what's happening is, if it is a big problem, it means that we're not appreciating our practice. We're not appreciating the nature of our awareness. We're not appreciating how complete that is in itself. So if an exercise like this seems unappealing in some way, it's because the point's being missed. It's been forgotten, perhaps. It's easy to forget it. I forget it every time I think about recording a video or editing it for upload. I don't want to listen to myself. I don't want to see myself. And when that's my attitude, I've forgotten what the point is. The point is these texts. The point is enlightenment practice. The point is awareness. And then when I remember, things come back into focus once again. Most of the time I'm off center. Most of the time I'm forgetting. But fortunately, in these videos, there's a good opportunity for remembering. Remembering that there's nothing boring about this at all. There's nothing stick in the mud about it at all. There's nothing dreary about it at all. It's fresh. It's vital. It's pungent. And it's where we can be truly at ease. I'll be continuing this theme, I think, in the next video.